Hello, my name is Ryan. If you're thinking about designing a healthy home, you're in the right place. Today I'm going to be talking to you about water services. Firstly, what documentation do you need to keep in mind? The main one is the water regulations of 1999. You can just Google that, there's loads of guides online. There's Part G for building regulations, and then there's also Domestic Building Services Compliance Guide. There's a few sort of requirements for installation in there for your hot water pipework. Part G limits the amount of water you can use, so please ask your architect. Firstly, what types of cold water supply are there in a house? So you've got mains pressure. That effectively means it's the pressure that your cold water mains is at, so whatever the main utility company provides you. There's a mains boosted system, which puts a small pump in the pipe to pressurize the pipe, and then there's a break tank and booster. So when would you use them? Mains, to be honest, most of the time is fine for small houses. Your mains water is measured in bar. The water companies only guarantee you 1 bar, which effectively means 10 meters of head. Sorry, it's getting a little bit technical there, but what that effectively means is you can push the water up 10 meters with that. So if you've got a 5-meter building, it means you'll have half a bar at the top. So what that really means is if you have a very tall building, you would definitely need some form of boosted system. Normally, if you've got like a 4-bedroom, 4-floor house and you've got a shower on the top floor, you definitely most likely need a mains system. However, saying that, even though the companies only guarantee 1 bar, more often than not, you get 2 to 3 bar. So when we do installations for clients, design for clients, we always explain to them, even though you might have good pressure now, there's no guarantee in the future that it's going to be there. So we'd almost recommend that you allow for at least some space for a booster in the future if you need it. A mains boosted system should only really be installed on very small homes. So that's pretty much wherever, like 1 or 2 bedrooms, because you are very much limited to how much water you could pull off the main systems. The water companies do not like you to have a pump directly on their system, because you could pull water from other properties if you've got a big pump. So that's why they limit you to a certain flow rate. If you want any further information, please contact a company called Salamander. They provide a pump like the one I'm talking about. There are other companies on the market. Again, I'm not affiliated with any of these, it's just trying to help you, to point you in the direction. If you're interested, you also can get dedicated shower ones. Just need to be careful again on flow rates and how many pumps you put into the building to stay compliant with building regulations and the water regulations. The safest one is a break tank and booster set. On medium to large houses, pretty much recommend this sort of installation. It is a wall mounted unit. It is effectively a break tank, so there's actually physically an air gap between your system and the mains water, so there's no way of back pressure. There's no way of you pulling too much water off their system, and also it protects you from any sort of backflow. It also provides a backflow protection as well. A company that provides these sort of ones is Grundfos, but there are others as well. So they are wall-mounted units. Allow about 1 meter by 600 by 600. That might be a little bit large, but that just gives you an indication of what sort of size you're talking about. They normally do quite large houses, but again, just chat with the manufacturer and they can give you an indication of what might be suitable. Water's pipe systems are designed using something called a loading units. So you count up all your fittings and you apply that against a lookup table, and that will give you a rough estimation of what your peak flow would be. I'm not going to go through it now, but the booster set company could probably do that on your behalf anyways. And also particularly also when you apply for a new water system, that's what they do. The water companies ask you for is the quantity of fittings. Another important thing to consider is protection from scolding. Building Regulations Part G actually states in 3.65 that the hot water must be limited to a maximum of 48 degrees. This should really be done by a thermostatic mixing valve that is accredited. It should really be the actual mixing valves actually will fail safe. That means if you have a problem with the cold water supply, it won't let any hot water through. The main reason behind this is because a lot of people got scolded by jumping into baths. Obviously the top surface, so the temperature would be cooler than actually what's in the bottom, and many people used to get scolded. So this came in a few years ago, so it's important to ensure that your plumber or your sanitary fittings, if you could check with your architect if the sanitary fittings actually meet this requirement. If not, you need to install something like what the Reliance Water Controls has. It's a bit unfortunate that you've used this as an example on their website. That the thermostatic mixing valve would normally be installed underneath the bathtub, so you wouldn't actually see it. Another thing to think about is an automatic bath fill cutoff. I mean, you don't have to install this. I'd recommend this on any building that have lots of baths, so it's likely that someone might forget the bath is left on. If you're renting out a place, it could save you a big headache for the sake of a few pounds. Effectively, what it is a mechanical device that cuts off the water flow to the bath if you don't have if the bath overflows, and alternatively is the bath will overflow and cause a lot of damage. I think it's quite a useful sort of investment, particularly if you're renting out the place or you have people that might forget about baths filling it up. Just saves future headaches. Another useful little device that we've come across a few times is something called a flow limiting device. Particularly if you have a boosted system, what you have is a valve that has a little cartridge that reduces the amount of flow through it, so you could reduce your water consumption, but then at the same time it also could be used as an isolation valve, so you're killing two birds with one stone. So you don't need you're reducing the amount of water being used, because if you've got if you've got high pressure, you can actually use quite a lot of water in a very small period. And you can actually change the look. You see the green little cartridge there that comes out. You can replace that with another cartridge to change the flow of water depending on what you want, really. So you just buy some little cartridges, and they're not very expensive, to be honest. Legionella is another key thing to consider. It grows within water that's around about 20-30 degrees up to about 40 degrees. It affects you if it gets put into a spray, so for instance like a shower head, you breathe it in, and then I believe about 10% people die from it. If you catch it, more often than not, it generally affects a lot more people if you are vulnerable. So if you have anybody who is vulnerable in the house, it's very important that you consider this. If you're in a commercial installation or renting out, you need to make sure that you are covered. You need to do a Legionella risk assessment. A good document is by the Health and Safety Executive, which outlines a methodology of reducing your risk in Legionella. It effectively means that no hot water should be stored under 55 degrees, 60 degrees. You should distribute the water at high temperature to each outlet. Your hot water should become hot at the tap within 1 minute. So as a rule of thumb, that's roughly about 15 meters from your heat source. That'll differ depending on your system, obviously. And you should really consider using trace heating if you have much larger systems, or if you have a very large house, consider using a secondary return system. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of it, but you just need to make sure that you're covered. You need to do the risk assessment if you are a landlord, and if you have any hot water storage. That's why Another thing to consider is your incoming water supply. So if your site is contaminated, you need to make sure that your incoming water supply, it has a barrier pipe which means that your supply will not become contaminated. Traditionally, the cold water meter is at your site boundary. You are responsible from the meter coming into your building, where you need to have a check valve, isolation valve, and a drain cock to comply with water regulations. But it's just making sure that you consider how the water is going to come into the building. You normally need to allow for an incoming duct into the space to allow the water to safely get pulled through. Next one's chlorination. When you're building a site, bugs can grow in your pipes, systems and everything else. So it's always advisable, if not mandatory, to do a chlorination of your whole system after everything has been installed. So don't wait, do it halfway through. I hope you found this video useful. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below. If you'd like to know more about the Healthy Home Movement, please visit our website, or if you'd like to contact us, our contact details are on there. But feel free to give us a ring or an email. We'll be more than happy to answer your question. Again, if you're going to build a home, please build a healthy home. Thank you.